This week it's National Apprenticeship Week across England, recognising the amazing work that apprentices and employers do in supporting the next generation to get ahead in their careers, whatever that may be. And so to celebrate, I've been asked by the wonderful folks at the Careers Enterprise Company if I would like to do a video talking about my experience of being an apprentice, which I did several years ago. And of course I said absolutely, I would love to chat about my experience and hopefully encourage some more young people like myself to consider an apprenticeship. Before I get into the Q&A though, let me first of all set the scene. So I am currently a final year student at the University of Leicester. I'm studying politics. Before that though, I took a gap year after I finished my A-levels. And during that time, I was an apprentice at the Careers and Enterprise Company for a whole academic year between September 2017 and September 2018. And I worked in the investment team. My official job title was Investment and Administration Assistant Apprentice. So it was my job to support the team with admin, work on any projects that were ongoing, as well as being an account manager to some of the wonderful grant recipients that the company funds to provide outstanding careers education to young people all across England. And so there were so many other things that I was able to do as well. I'm sure I'll come onto those a bit later, but that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the stuff that I was able to do during my apprenticeship. So now let's get to some of the questions that have been sent in to me. First one, what apprenticeship did you do and where did you study? Well, I did a Pearson Level 3 in Business Administration. The qualification is exactly as it says on the tin, learning about the core elements of administration such as communicating in a business environment, creating documents, emails, spreadsheets, Salesforce, all of that good stuff. And usually I'd be in the office between Monday and Thursday. Fridays would be my training day, where I would be at my apprenticeship training provider with all of the other apprentices on my cohort who were at different organisations. We'd come together on that day and do our training with our apprenticeship provider and, get to share experiences and that kind of thing. Why did you choose an apprenticeship? Well, for me, the number one reason for doing an apprenticeship was to gain some work experience. And I know that usually apprenticeships are done as an alternative to university. And I'm telling you, the skills that you learn in just 1 year can really set you up for a lifetime of success, even without a degree, especially if you do a more technical course like accounting, construction, or plumbing. But for me, I didn't have much experience when I just finished my A-levels. I did some volunteering work, which was actually really awesome, but I felt that I needed more. And I was quite worried about starting university without having had the time to work in a proper business environment. And that's something that I really wanted to do and achieve. And I thought that by doing that, it would help me in the future, aka now pretty much, as I finished my degree, in terms of looking for grad jobs and things like that. And so that was the main thing really, having some experience in the bank before university so that I could be in a much stronger position when applying for jobs in the future. Doing this apprenticeship not only gave me an extra qualification to my name, but also allowed me to develop many skills. Time management, communication, teamwork, attention to detail, things that you'd need in any job. But I was able to learn that and grow as a person over an entire year, which I thought was absolutely amazing. What are the benefits of doing an apprenticeship? Well, the main one is that it's an actual job, right? So as well as a qualification, you get a decent salary and you're essentially just another employee, which is really, really cool. You get so much support too, not just from your apprenticeship provider, but from your employer as well. And I had an amazing team at the CEC who were always there whenever I needed their expertise. And it's also a great opportunity to expand your network as well and meet people that otherwise you probably wouldn't have met before. And building up those strong connections is so important, especially in this day and age, because you never know when they might come in handy, or you never know when you might come in handy for someone else. And so that is always a great thing to be able to do, building up that network for the future. What do you think made you successful in securing your apprenticeship? Look, I always think that there has to be an element of luck. I mean, I'm not going to gloat and say that I'm the best person ever and this and that, the other. There is always an element of luck. But aside from that, I think that when I was applying for the apprenticeship, it was all about selling myself and using whatever unique attributes and qualities I had to my advantage. So for example, I did have some volunteering experience before my apprenticeship, and so I made sure that I included that in my CV, and I really related the volunteering that I did to the work that I would possibly be doing at the CEC. So for example, communication skills, working in a charity shop, trying to link that to the sort of things I'd be doing on my apprenticeship, and making those connections is very, very important. Making yourself fit the role that you're applying to, even with the limited experience that I had, was very important to getting me to that position. Also, I'd say interview skills are absolutely vital. Practicing for that, knowing who my audience were, presenting myself appropriately, all of that is important, and I think that is why I was able to be so successful in my application. Has an apprenticeship helped your confidence? If so, in what way? I mean, that is a no-brainer. That is just an absolute no-brainer. There were things such as writing emails and making telephone calls that prior to my apprenticeship I would not have even countenanced doing. Like, just absolute no-goes. I like to receive emails and I like to receive telephone calls, but actually writing emails and making telephone calls, nah, not for me. Absolutely not. But you see, when you do the apprenticeship, you are thrown right into the deep end. Literally, on day one of joining, right? First day at the company. And my manager said to me, right, these are the things you're going to be doing. The first thing was, you're going to be an account manager for some of our providers, and you're going to be their regular point of contact, and every 6 weeks, you'll be telephoning them to check in with how their delivery's going. And in my head, I was just thinking, what? I was like, oh my God, I have to actually call people and like talk to them on the telephone. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, oh my God. But you see, that's the great thing, because you are thrown right into the deep end. There is no avoiding it. You have to do it. And actually, you find that by doing it, and the more you do it, the better you become. And the better you get at your role, the easier it is to be able to talk to people about what it is that you're doing. And so actually, that is something that I'm very, very grateful for, having that experience of account management and speaking to people and getting to learn about the amazing projects that are going on around the country. It's such a rewarding role to have, and that has definitely gone a long way to boosting my confidence. One of my proudest achievements, actually, in my year at the CEC was hosting the annual conference back in 2018 in front of 800 delegates. I mean, that is a lot of people. Representatives from the world of education, the world of business. It was absolutely extraordinary. Highly, highly daunting for me at first, don't get me wrong, but wow, it was amazing. And now I find public speaking so much easier than before, and of course it's kind of helpful when it comes to me doing the YouTube thing now. The ability to communicate effectively is so important, and that is something that I will always treasure from my time at the CEC, building up my confidence, building up my speaking skills, something that I will always be grateful for. Why would you recommend an apprenticeship to others? I mean, for all the reasons I've outlined already. I mean, it's a chance to gain some in-depth, on-the-job experience in an area that really suits you, a full-time job with the prospect of either future employment, or in my case, being able to use the experience to gain other roles either whilst at uni, and of course it will stand me in good stead for when I begin looking for graduate roles as well. What is a typical day in the life of an apprentice when at the CEC? Well, a typical day would have seen me arrive in the office just before 9, make myself a cup of tea. Peppermint is my tea of choice, keeps me nice and calm and relaxed for during the day. Take a look at my to-do list, check my email and my calendar, and essentially just organise my day around that, to be honest. If our team was working on sorting through applications for grant funding, then we would all be in absolute overdrive, sorting out interviews, preparing letters, working on spreadsheets, and it will be up to me to just get on with it. And that's what I loved. I loved the independence of knowing what I was doing and just being able to get on with it and do what I have to do. It was absolutely amazing. Other times I'd be out and about. I was very fortunate to be able to travel up and down the country and visit some of the organisation that the CEC works with and to see how CEC funding helps them out. So overall, quite a mix in terms of things I'll be getting up to on a daily basis, but it's a variety that kept the job so interesting for me. What surprised you when joining the world of work? Well, funnily enough, what surprised me the most was that when I arrived, everyone seemed really relaxed. Like, I remember walking in on my first day and I was expecting a just constant, non-stop, fast-paced environment where everyone was on the move. I was expecting people to be on guard at all times, just absolutely focused on their work. But actually, people were just so relaxed, so welcoming. I mean, I was surprised at how hard people work. People work extremely, extremely hard and get so much stuff done. But at the same time, people are always willing to have a chat, always willing to answer questions that you may have, and that point actually on answering questions, that is something else that really surprised me, because when I was younger and back in school, asking questions always used to be frowned upon. Like, if you put your hand up in class and ask a question to the teacher, they'll say, "Oh, Darshan, why don't you understand what I just said? you should understand this. Why aren't you reading this properly? You know, you shouldn't be asking questions. You need to understand this right now. And so that's something that I was quite anxious about. I thought that was a general expectation, you know, asking questions is not a good thing. That's the impression I've always had. But actually, when you're at work, if you don't ask people questions, then that is actually frowned upon. You're supposed to ask questions. You know, you're supposed to ensure that you understand something fully before doing something. And that's just something that makes logical sense to me. That is what makes perfect sense. And I found that being able to ask questions freely and with people being so willing to answer and help out, I was able to produce some absolutely top quality work during my time at the CEC because I was able to fully grasp what I was doing. And that is such an important thing for an apprentice, especially if it's your first proper job. You know, you want to be able to make sure that the work you're doing is valued and being used at the company. And so asking questions is just so important. And that's one of my big pieces of advice to any apprentice right now. Make sure you ask questions. People are absolutely dying to hear from you. And I guarantee you that there will come a point where people will start asking you questions. You're going to be in charge of a project at some point and people will want to get the information from you. And that's a really good place to be as well. If you're being able to give out information to other people about stuff you're working on, that is just the best feeling. And finally, how are you finding adapting to the virtual world right now? What changes have you made regarding working from home? Well, luckily, when I was at CEC, I was able to work from home on a few occasions when I needed to, and that was really cool, having that flexibility to do so. Now, at the moment, I'm studying remotely away from university, and I don't see that changing anytime before the end of term. And to be honest with you, I don't actually mind. I really enjoyed online learning and the flexibility that it provides, and I'd like to think that in the future I'd be able to have the best of both worlds, working both remotely and in an office, and the kind of job that I get hopefully in the future. And so I definitely think that there's a place for both in society, and hopefully for apprentices as well, the same thing is true. And there you have it. That is my apprenticeship experience in a nutshell. I hope you found it useful. Please check out the amazing work of the CEC. They play a critical role in ensuring that careers education is front and centre of young people's development. Also, have a look at some of the amazing work being done this National Apprenticeship Week. Their big aim for 2021, train, retain, achieve. Absolutely fantastic. Links to both in the description below, and I'll see you next video.